you think anything so far as everything so far has been, sort of okay, got that, yeah, energy and all that, and all right, I can wrap my head around this. Well, this next one might bake your noodle a bit because it sure did mine. However, I got to tell you, ever since this has come into knowing, it absolutely just, it sat with me and it made absolute perfect sense. I'm going to tell a weird story. You should research it yourself. Suffice it to say that much has been hidden from us and much has coming to light, and many people are getting this information out there. And this is Gnosticism. This is teachings from the Cathalars and the Templars, and this is getting back into true knowing. There wasn't religion. There was just simple knowing, meaning that there were states of beingness and existence here that was way advanced because they were advanced in the way that they understood the mechanisms and that were in place, and they understood sort of where they were, and they had ways of dealing with and protecting themselves in and keeping themselves healthy and safe, and things that we would consider like voodoo magic, or if you will, right? Sorcerer and witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. And what's coming out is a lot of ancient teachings and knowings, and in support of some fringe aspects of history, and what you would consider quote unquote would be fringe is a lot of these teachings in the Gnosticism with regards to where we really were as far as a reality. And they understood that there were many realities, and they had the idea, much like we've already talked about, of who we are and what we are, even why we are. They understood that from much more of a deep spiritual, but also more of a knowing, I guess, a remembrance of. And anyway, they paint a very different picture. Yeah, I've already played in one other one that delves into just the depths, and that's probably yeah, I'm not going to go into the details. I think I'll do that as an entire. I've already recorded a bit from this recording that really describes this guy does an awesome job. One of the Bible stories does just an amazing job. Anyway, but it's like 7 minutes long. I guess I can add it to this. But there was an aeon, which was one of the highest. It was, I guess if we had it as God's consciousness, and then there was a sort of a created realm there, and or aspects of, or whatever that was, and those were coming into beingness, or coming into focus and vision. And one of the last ones, her name was Sophia. She, before everything had been balanced, she decided that, and she knew of creation, decided to go create on her own. She just had this spark of, like a kid on a playground. And I guess I can only understand that it was understood that these eons, however many there were, 12 or so, I think that's what it was, maybe 8. I can't remember now. Yeah, numbers are important. But they are the sort of the major aspects of God's consciousness in creation. And so anyway, they know that once it's all expanded, fulfilled, that they will create in concert. But she, right out of the chute, just had this wild hair and just went and created. And I you can dig into the details if you reach into Sophia and the creation of this reality. And because I don't want to get into all the details, I've dug into it and listened to it from many forms, and there's a lot of teachings and writings about it. Again, it's just all coming out, or I'm paying attention to it. No, it's coming out, because it is. There's so many good series that talk about it. And you can, which I've not yet read the Pistis Sophia, which is essentially her story, which obviously I should, but I will. But I don't. I spend time with her, enough time with her, that I've got a good sense of what's already in there from a heart level, anyway. So she created a reality that wasn't balanced, wasn't supported, and so it just literally sunk to the lower part of the universe. Or the lower part of creation. That's the best way I can describe it. And so I won't get into how big or small it gets. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to talk about Earth, because that's where the importance lies. So she created this false reality that had no light because it wasn't balanced. And so then she created what she thought would be an entity to help with this space, not realizing that there was nothing to create from. So she then mistakenly created this, as I understand, what they call the demiurge, or ends up being the sort of supreme being of this sort of fallen place. And so this being this entity can't really create, can only command. And so commanded into beingness, these sort of a servant class, and worked on that for a while, and then developed a sort of a middle class in there, and then developed a class that had potential to be connected to truth. And they named it the Hylics, the Psychics, and the Pneumatics. Now, they say the Pneumatics are without souls. They're essentially just the guts of the system moving stuff. And if you think about it, that sort of makes sense. There's really, they're not bad people. I'm not judging anything. They're not here on any other mission other than to just come into his existence, be whatever it is they're going to be, whatever path that's supposed to follow. Maybe that's programmed in, but they're the servants. They're the servants of the reality. They sort of march on no matter what. The ones called the psychics, they do have souls, and it's up to them which way that soul's going to go. Is that soul going to rise, or is that soul going to be lost to the experience? Now, as I understand that if you're spirit, we are spirit, and if you were to lose a soul in a reality, it is a mark against you. Because again, you only have so many, so it is a mark. That makes sense. So, anyway, then we get to the pneumatics, and they are the ones that have sort of the light codes. They are the ones that have the spark, I guess, within, and it's sort of theirs to lose, if that makes sense. So I think these are probably, the enlightened ones that, never got contaminated, or, the mentors that I have. I think that's more of who they are. They're more of the pneumatics. I think I'm in the psychic range. I think I chose. I don't think I did choose. But I believe I'm in the psychic range. I believe I had the equal chance to go either way. I wasn't, and I certainly wasn't driven in any of this until, like I said, 10 years ago. So it's not like it's been a lifelong thing. So that's where I put the pneumatics and sort of that. Anyway, so she created this realm. She created a being that ended up without any balance and unable to create. And that entity built a system that was really not connected to source from the standpoint of that overall creation from the aeon. It was something that was different. It had a different density. It moved to a different point in all. And anyway, so Sophia, realizing, and again, there's no time and no space, so it happens, everything happens instantaneously. So you can think of it happening all at once. And realizing exactly what she did, dropped from her position where she was into incarnate into the world to bring any kind of light. And it's through her that the Gnostics and the Cathalars and the Templars worked through much of her power. And then Mary Magdalene is, in our time, is the incarnate of Sophia. So, yeah, they sort of rewrote that one a little bit, just a tad, didn't they? Anyway, so she is in this realm to bring the light, to help remember. And she's in this realm as an energy source to help those find this spark and to, ascend this experience in this lifetime. Yeah, that's the best way I can say is that she's she's the energy source that's behind that. So we're having a human experience inside of a fallen reality. Okay. Well, let me get to some things that maybe help explain why things sort of are the way they are and what really goes on. Because this space isn't created, it's manufactured. And by that I mean that those that are in power already know everything. Does that make sense? They know the million-year cycles and the 36,000-year-old cycles. They know that it's 365 days. They know that it should be 13 months. They know it should be 12 equal. Yeah, 12 equal months. They know that. They know that everything is energy. They know that to break your cycle, they manipulate all kinds of things, even including the tuning frequency for music. It was changed from 432 hertz to 440 hertz by the Rockefeller Foundation. So, and for the reason so it doesn't resonate with you. So anyway, because they found out that that tuning is what would resonate with the is a resonant frequency to the human frequency. We all have our unique frequency resonance, but as an energy, but the human has a quote unquote a resonance, and so the 432 is in harmony with the 440 is not, because you think about it, it'd be out of cycle, right? Just a tad. That's all it takes. So anyway, so this system here knows everything. So it's easy to write things like quote unquote the Bible. Now there's a lot of truths in the Bible. Don't discount that. But the things that look as prophecies, well, why would you be a prophet when you know that you wrote the script? Things like the Star Wars, or things that like the Matrix and movies like that. There's a reason those are they write those, is because they absolutely know that those are just truths. It's no big secret. It's not a secret at all. So I have to plug this in. So it's easy. They're not creative. They're just already they're just putting into our reality their already pre-written script. They created religion based on us, going through them to their God. Well, guess who their God is? The demiurge. It's a false god. They're just praying to this false entity. Plain and simple. There's no one to go through. God is inside. Jesus, Esau, and Mary Magdalene were here to show us the way of doing that. How to rise through our internal self. We're meant to do that. You're meant to grow through these phases of yourself, to clear out the biases, to clear out the obstacles, to be your full light. That's what they were here for. Yeah, to be teachers of that. But they made religion as this, in this organized things. They created good and bad. Why? So you could measure it. There's right and wrong. But good and bad allows for the control mechanism, right? It allows for everything. Now we get to measure, penalize, enforce, incarcerate based on good and bad. The behaviors that we have. Now we've only done it to ourselves, right? It's a collective thing, no doubt. But yeah. So there is no good, there is no bad. There's what's right and what's wrong. Yes, absolutely. But anyway, so they create all these rules, all these layers for our experience. And you maybe have to ask yourself, well, why? Well, we're in a dense, dark reality that feeds on the negative. And so we're sort of on a slave planet where our energy is harvested, particularly if it's dark and if it's negative. Absolutely, that feeds the system. Sort of explains why what goes on here, right? It's meant to keep you in limbo. Let me give you this perfect example. If this doesn't tell you, I'm not political, I'm just telling you about how their minds work. Understand, nothing happens by accident. And so in the US we had Joe Biden, which was just as far left as you could go, and just a crazy period. And now it's gone to this full right with Trump, and it's this crazy period. Neither one of these would have happened if those that empower this hierarchy. This isn't a random place. Very strategic. Neither one of these would have happened if it weren't allowed. And used to create what? Anxiety. Look at the whiplash it's causing. And look at the anxiety that this place is able to harvest and gain their power from. They feed on the dark. So, we are in a dark, thick reality. This place also recycles souls. That's why there's so many traps here. Addictions and, afflictions and just the deviantsness and just all rife with all kinds of things to get stuck to, right? So this place is filled with traps to get stuck to. So now we've got this place that is used as a energy center. And back to the souls. The souls are a real commodity because they provide the experience for the demiurge to get that experience, right? So they have to have the batteries in order to have the emotions that go with it. So the light is trying to go. There we go. So the it needs souls, and so there are, when you expire here, there are all these traps to keep you and your soul here as an energy source. So souls are a very highly sought out commodity. If you want to know what your true value is, that would be your soul's very, very, very precious, extremely precious. So so that's how the dark has sort of created this complete false reality around our entire existence. They've created a way to enslave souls by this reincarnation loop where they just make it so challenging for them to get out. If you're here now and you're paying attention to this, you're probably not on the reincarnation loop. You're here to help move this forward. And yeah, that would be my guess. Now, here's the kicker. So I'm hearing this, reading about this, digesting this, and I go to my friend Jenny. I said, so essentially we're in hell. And she said, huh? Yes. Does that start to sort of make sense? We're in a fallen reality. We've got an overarching energy that can't really create, but can only really demand. I mean, is it me, or does that just not resonate? And then we've got every one of us asks, what the heck's going on? There's this guy showing this thing, and this lady, she goes, I don't know how many more it is what it is I have in me. And we're sort of getting to that point, right? Where it's just like, wow, things are just like really getting sort of nuts. But they are. There's no doubt about that. We're in this period of time for a specific reason. So when I think about all of this and I add it all up, it absolutely makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. Now, that said, we are here to be our light in a dark space. So this idea of Star Wars, and the light fighting the dark, absolutely, yes. It's very, very, very real. That's exactly what we're here to do. We are to be our light in this space, particularly at this time, but I mean, always, but that's what we've got to do. That's our challenge. So yes, we're in a dark place. The decks are stacked against us, and that's okay. We don't back down in any of this. We're not backing down. We're not taking a back seat. We're in my opinion, we're jumping into this. Just full on. So, and we need to, that's the perspective that we need to have, is that we're going to be our full light. Now is the time. Again, I'm going to get into this idea of divine masculine and feminine. That's a whole different one. But what we need to do now is be our full power, our full light in this place. Because we are fighting a bit of a war. We are fighting a bit of a war. So, I mean, it's exciting. It's no doubt that it's a very exciting time to be alive. But it's a very anxious time for a lot of people. And so that's why we need to be our light, to bring in as much as we can, and to start to squelch this anxiety and move things forward. And we are. We just have to push harder. This is not a time to be weak. This is a time for us all to be very, very bold. Very, very bold, because again, we're fighting a big one. We're fighting a sort of a final battle in some ways, in some sort. So we have to be very vigilant and very, very diligent about your beingness in this reality. Doesn't mean we're paranoid. It means your hard drive's very aware and awake. That's what it needs to be in this reality. That's why that's the hard drive here. The ego is very important that you keep centered and clean, so that it can take in what it needs to take in to help keep you aware and safe and navigating this place while still being your highest self and not closing down. So anyway, that's the best explanation I have of where we are, and what we're battling. I would encourage you to research all this always for yourself. One thing you don't need to research is where God is, because that's inside of you. You just have to get quiet and get there. And my guess is if you're here, you've already found it. So, found source, found something that connects you. Yep, that's it. So that's the best way I can describe as to where we are in this entire reality. I will also say this, because I have covered this before. Sorry, I gotta keep moving. The light's changing. I'll sit down. I can't see, but I guess I can a little bit. It doesn't matter. I have to see myself, just as long as you can. Yep, there we go. What we do here, even though it seems like it's small, it's not. It's very important. It's very mindful of. We need to be mindful of our experience here. As I talked about before, it's our thoughts that carry the true weight or our true character, and really what's measured in our overall beingness. I guess you have to have a grade on your spirit. It's graded on your thoughts, because that's what happens before it gets into the hard drive. So it's did you follow through on your thoughts, or did you change those thoughts and turning into this? And now what are those? What are those? It's about that higher thought and then what you transferred it to. Not necessarily the words, or not necessarily the actions. Those are tertiary. Those are not even tertiary. They're minute compared to your thinking, your real thinking. Not about twisting a knob, but I mean your true processing and your contemplation about things, or thoughts about things or people. It's those that carry weight, and that's so we think very small when all we think that it's only our words or actions that matter. No, that's thinking of it from a human perspective. From a human perspective, it does. It does. That's where the karma cycle comes in. That's where all that shit happens over with with that control mechanism, and them, using you as a battery pack. Yeah, that's where that comes in. So we don't want to experience it from that perspective. Yeah, I think that's it. It helps me put in perspective what goes on here by having these knowings. It gives me room to breathe because it makes sense. I'm understanding the game. And I'm hoping that this is helping you understand the game as well. Because it really is a game that we're in. It's a serious game. Again, what you think in this game registers. It matters. It scores. It's how your spirit is really learning and growing from. And so we want that thinking to be at the highest level.